So as I mentioned in the first video, is that I'd be doing some work on the Spitfire. Well, as promised, I have done some work on the Spitfire. And I'll go over a few of the stages here in a little bit. But I got up on stands. I think I had it up on stands in the last video. And then now we've got it up. I took the wheels off. The e-brake, the emergency brake back here on the driver rear wheel was broken. So I took that one off first to see if it was an easy fix. I don't think it's going to be a terribly hard fix, but it looks like one of the pins snapped that held the e-brake lever, which you can see right there. That snapped off. It should be right here in this area. And but that snapped off, so I'll have to get that fixed. But I was originally going to keep the wheels on in the event I wanted to be able to drop the car and roll it, but I don't think it's going to move for some time, so I took all four wheels off. Gives a whole lot better access to the engine bay right here, so I can get a stool and sit down. And without the wheel right here, there's a lot of access on the car. Haven't really done too much else other than that. I took the wheels off on this side. There's some smaller repairs that I'm going to want to do amongst the larger repairs, like the door handle on the driver's side is snapped. The lever that actuates kind of how the door opens has popped off, so I'll fix that at some point. And other minor things like that ahead of what I'll get to in a second over here. But I do have all four wheels off, and I also, you see right here, I've got this little comedically small header for the car. It was on a piece of longer exhaust pipe that I've thrown out there. But I took the header off. This is a lot of surface rust. I'm probably, just by nature of what I'm doing to the car, not going to reuse that immediately, but I'm also not going to get rid of it. I'm going to dip that in a tub of evapor rust and see if I can clean it off a good bit. Do whatever I need to with that, and then repaint it black and just keep it. It's always nice to have a spare header laying around for a car like this. So I'll do that with the header, and then in general, I think the biggest project from this point forward is under here. I've got the block with all of the freeze plugs, and I've got oil pumps and timing change and valve guides and rebuilt valves. And here's the heads for it. The one on the left is the old head. The one on the right is the rebuilt head. You can see all the valve springs and everything inside there. So I need to get the crank inside of it. The crank's under this tile right here. I'm going to get the crank in the block. And then I've got new pistons over here that I need to get all those put inside of it. And then I've got other parts over here like the oil pan and whatnot. But those are the main. I think the motor is going to take the longest just because I want to make sure the motor is going to take the longest because, as I mentioned in the first video, it threw a rod in probably 2013, 14, something like that. So the throwing of the rod is what's put it out of commission for this amount of time. And the motor, this time around, if I'm going to put a new one in, I want to make sure it's the best that I could possibly do it. So I've got a lot of stuff going on with that. Improved. I think it had a issue with the oil supply on the rear cylinder that caused the rod to ultimately be ejected from the side of the block, which is rather dramatic to be cruising down the highway. But I'm going to get a improved aluminum radiator. I'm going to get an oil cooler. I'm going to get all sorts of fans for that. And then that'll help the oil side a little bit. And then just having a as tidy, clean, quality, put together motor as possibly that I can will hopefully eliminate some of that. So not really a big update on this one. I have spent probably just a couple hours out here removing the exhaust that was presently under it, since that was the last large clunky thing inside the engine bay. I popped the wheels off just because they'll be easier to work with in certain areas. All of the brakes and wheel bearings and all that they all need to be gone through and cleaned in order to get back on the road. But I thought this would be a good quick update right now. We are well on the way to getting this thing back on track.